Hello there, welcome back. Today I've got something bitter brewing in the cocktail department. But welcome back, I'm glad you came. And if you were here last night, you saw me with Miko of Odimu Spirits, and he was just so wonderful that I broke up with Roman afterwards and said, I'm leaving you to move to Cognac, because he was so nice and he had this wonderful smile and he made me happy. But then I thought about the long-term ramifications and changed my mind. Okay, just kidding on that. I did nothing really like that happen, but it was great to meet Miko finally after all these years of sort of emailing him and so forth. And it was really, I watched the episode last night and it was so heartwarming to see his smile, and he was just a very nice guy. So that said, I've got two special guests next week that I just planned today. I was kind of wondering what I'm going to do tomorrow night. I put a little message out on Instagram because I didn't really have anything planned. I thought, maybe this is over. Maybe I've reached the end. So I thought maybe I would do a Q&A, because often people leave, you're kind of left to leave comments and questions, and I don't always get to them because there's a lot of stuff going. It's like multitasking. There's things going on. I'm trying to think about what's going on next here. Roman's here, I'm translating. So that if you're interested in that, leave a comment, or you can leave another comment on the Instagram post I posted with this drink, which is called the Lucian Gaudin. But I'll get to that in just a minute. Somebody actually left a comment and she said, well, I want to learn more about Vermouth. So I wrote to the head of Dolan Vermouth, and he's going to be here, Pierre Olivier, next Tuesday. He's going to answer all your questions about vermouth, French vermouth, sweet vermouth, bitters, French spirits, how long they keep, the all-important question, how long can I keep vermouth and where should I keep it? He is the man. He is going to answer all your questions and more. So we're going to have a good vermouth session. So I'm going to be going at least one more week because I've booked him and somebody else. One of my readers kindly pointed out that there's a button on here, because when I show a bottle, everything's backwards. And they said, oh, well, there's a button you can press that reverses everything, but I don't know where it is, and it's on Facebook. So I need you to, when you tell me there's something, you have to tell me where it is. Because I wrote that I wanted to see Schitt's Creek, but I can't watch it in France because it's not on Netflix. And people kept writing to me saying, oh, it's on Netflix, it's on Netflix, it's on Netflix. Like, it's not on Netflix in France. So I'm still out of, there's probably an expression with the S word in it, but I won't say it. But I'm Schitt's Creek out of luck, how's that? Because it's the name of somebody, not a bad word. I don't want to say bad words here. There's a lot of bad words out there. Here, it's not going to be like that. And today I was looking at my calendar. I still use one of those old-fashioned calendars when I was writing in Pierre Olivier for Tuesday. And I realized that next Friday I was supposed to be returning from Sri Lanka. I was supposed to be finding myself right now and making sure that I was going to get to go to the good place. So that didn't happen, so I'm still unsure where I'm going to get to go, but hopefully I'll get to go to Sri Lanka some other time. I was glad I didn't buy a ticket because I might have been stuck there, which is probably not such a bad thing, but on the other hand, it's nice to be home. So there you go. So today's cocktail is very interesting. It's from a book I found. This book came out, I think, in 2006, called Vintage Spirits and Forgotten Cocktails, by a cocktail historian named Ted Hay, and Haigh. And I think it was just reissued, or maybe it was updated. He was one of the first internet pioneers to talk about cocktails back in the 2000s, I guess you call it. And this book was sort of a sensation because it was on the cusp of writing about contemporary cocktails and looking back and vintage spirits. And he apparently has this amazing collection of vintage spirits and cocktailware. So he posted a lot of pictures of old-fashioned shakers and jiggers and bottles. And I just did a little research on it. I tried to find him this afternoon just to see where he was, because I always like to give credit to where credit is due. He didn't invent this cocktail. He just was one of the people that wrote about it in his book. And I didn't, his current website is called Cocktail DB, I think for database. It didn't look like it had been updated for quite a while. So anyhow, I thank him for introducing me to this recipe. Right before I came on, I looked at the comments and someone said, "Oh, that's a Negroni," because it has the same it has the same ingredients. It has gin, Campari, and dry vermouth. A Negroni's a little different. Negronis usually have red vermouth, and this one has orange liqueur as well. The Negroni, I don't know when the Negroni was actually invented. There's a lot of debate, even where it was invented. So I'm not going to get into that now. I'm going to leave that for people who are historians to discuss. Because when I was writing Drinking French, I discovered that there's a theory that Negronis actually are French from Corsica. And that is not a theory that a lot of people subscribe to. I'm just putting that out there. So don't kill the messenger. But I thought it was a very interesting story, interesting enough to give some some of my word count to that story, because I thought it was very interesting. Because a lot of people don't know where things come from exactly, and people like to. Oh, somebody left a question. Is it where that button is? Whoops! It's funny that this turns around when I hit this button, the question button. Okay, so this little phone. It's funny. My fingers are like too. I actually bought a big. I used to have a Plus, which was bigger. Then I got a new iPhone, like the 11, and it was tiny. I was like, whoa, I want bigger. As you get older, you want bigger things. So I have big fingers, and I don't want to mess up I don't want to write something bad. So anyway, this cocktail is called the Lucian Gaudin. And Romain often corrects my French. And in French, you often don't pronounce the end of words. Like Paris, you don't pronounce the S on the end. Or vin, you don't pronounce the N. And the other day I was talking about several people's names, and the French word for name is nom, N-O-M, but you pronounce it non, son nom. Son nom is like his name, or their name rather. And I was like, well, why is there the M? Why don't you guys get rid of the M? Because it would make it much easier, or just pronounce it. I guess they used to in the old days pronounce it. That's the old French. They used to say like Paris, and somehow it got clipped. So I was talking about several people's names. I was like, Tono. It just sounded like it was like a sound rather than two words. So we're all still working on our French. Even French people have trouble sometimes with French. But I got a B- when I took my last French test, so I'm doing okay. And hello, everybody. Oh, the videos of the market yesterday. That was today. That was this morning. I haven't been to the markets in a couple months. Right before the lockdown, they were a Schitt's Creek show. There was pictures, and people were just packed in the aisles, and there was zero social distancing, and it looked a mess. So after the lockdown, they said the markets were they wanted the markets to reopen because a lot of people shop at the markets. There's 100 markets in Paris every week, maybe 110 now, because they keep expanding. People like going to the market. But they said there was no definitive regulations in place from what I heard, that they were just going to make sure that the markets were practicing good hygiene and practices. So everybody had plastic. If you looked at my Instagram stories, everybody had plastic around their fruit. It was this high, so you couldn't really talk to people. You could talk, but you couldn't stand there. And so things actually moved kind of quickly, because usually people sit there and banter, and you're standing behind them waiting, while Madame selects her 2 figs or her, half a sausage to bring home. It's like, okay. So a friend of mine lives out in the 16th, which is full of sort of well-to-do older people, and she's like, the market just takes forever because they just stand there and want to buy like 4 grapes or something. So anyhow, the market, the vendors were doing a good job. There was 0 tape on the ground, so nobody was distancing. Sometimes places here put tape on the ground to keep people 3 feet apart, which is what the recommended, the minimum is here in France. And 3 feet's actually not that much. So if you're standing in the middle of the 3-foot place, somebody behind you could be standing right at the front of theirs, and they're actually a foot away from you. Not to get too granular about this, but if you move forward, so nobody's standing, right on the space they're supposed to, and there wasn't any markings. Everybody was really clustered. There wasn't anybody there like inspecting, anybody making sure people were staying apart from each other. 2 people coughed on me who weren't wearing masks. Somebody wrote me, they go home and like take off all your clothes and throw them in the washing machine. So I had put them on my bed, and then I realized, so I was like, oh, okay, gotta wash everything, but I didn't do that yet. And I'm gonna deal with that later, I promise. I just need a drink first after going to the market. So this drink is the Lucian Gaudin, pardon. It was named after a French fencer who was a Olympic fencer in the 1920s, and I think up to the 30s, and he won a couple of, I think, gold and silver medals, or I'm not exactly sure. I think I might have written it down. Sometimes I take little notes so I don't screw up. Anyhow, he won some medals, and I tried to find out why this cocktail was named after him, and I couldn't. So there you have it. But it's a good one, and I like it because there's no fruit in it. I don't mind fruit in cocktails, but if you can't get fruit, alcohol keeps for a long, long time. And let me tell you, I've got 130 or 40 bottles of that. And I'll say, hello, Brad Parsons, and hello in Kentucky. How are you? In San Rafael. I heard somebody on TV news the other, San Rafael, California, someone said San Rafael. I was like, no, San Rafael. And they also said Frisco. Please stop saying Frisco. Nobody says Frisco. It's very, very bad to say Frisco. It's like nobody in New York says the Big Apple. So you can say it, but only amongst yourself. If you say it to people in San Francisco, it's like, Okay, all good. I still want to go to the good place, so. So the Lucian Gaudin, since Miko was so super sweet yesterday, I'm going to use his pink pepper gin. So it's got 1 ounce of gin. You can use any kind of gin you want. I am going to go buy a bottle of their dry gin because I think that's very interesting. I want to try it without the tonka bean and the vanilla in it. It smells so good. All right, so 1 ounce of gin. I put this recipe on my blog today, so you don't have to scribble it down unless you want to. But 1 ounce of gin, and then a ½ ounce of red bitter aperitif or aperitivo. I don't have any more Campari. I used it up. So I have some Dolan bitters here, which is, since the founder is going to be here next week, I'm going to open the bottle. And I love this bitter. It's not available in the US, so I don't generally like to use it on here because people say, well, why can't we get it? And I don't know. But there's lots of other good bitters you can get. There's St. George Bruto Americano. There's Capoletti. Campari is very good. There's this aperitivo from our friends at Fort Havre Spirits. And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but they make a very good one in Brooklyn. So they're all, you can get a domestic one, you can get local ones, or you can buy from Italy or France. No, you can't buy from France. Okay, so I've got 1 ounce of gin in here, a ½ ounce of red bitter aperitif or aperitivo, and I'm gonna add a ½ ounce of orange liqueur. I didn't realize this, but somebody pointed out to me, they said, I had a cocktail last week and they go, no, Cointreau is so expensive, and I Googled it, and it's funny when you Google things from outside the country, you can't see what's in other countries, you have to go around it, and it's like, so anyhow, to make a long story short, yes, Cointreau is very expensive in America. It's about $45. The good thing is you can get half bottles, or the better thing is, actually I found out that this triple sec, the dry curacao from Pierre Ferrand, which I like a lot, is only like $28. So you can find this, it's great. I like Cointreau for certain things. Grand Marnier is another French orange liqueur. This is made from bitter and sweet oranges, marinated in brandy. And this is made with cognac because Pierre Ferrand also makes cognac. And I love this. This smells really good. So I'm gonna add a ½ ounce of this. So it is sort of similar to a Negroni. But I once put a white Negroni on my blog, and an Italian woman was irate with me because I was ruining her culture. I said, no, it's a white Negroni. You can get them in a lot of Negroni Sbagliato, which is a Negroni with Prosecco. There's a really great bar in New York called Dante, and they have a Negroni happy hour with all sorts of variations on Negronis, and it's fantastic, and they're all $10, and they're all really good, and it's very crowded. They're $10 at happy hour, so sorry. Everyone's like running to go there, but okay, and a half ounce of dry vermouth. So they're in a cocktail glass, a mixing glass, because there's no fruit juice in it. You shake with fruit juice, stir with non-fruit juice. I'm gonna grab some ice. I'm gonna shut the freezer. And I just did a post last week about my favorite bar tools and sort of what to avoid, and one of them was these. Somebody pointed out, I said, I don't like these, they hurt my fingers, they're poorly made. This is like the cheapest stirrer you can buy. I have no problem with cheap stuff, but these hurt my hand when you stir. They're not made quality. And somebody pointed out, they go, well, a lot of good bartenders use the ones with the grooves. And I said, yeah, I wrote that. Buy a good one. If you buy a stirrer with grooves, I suggest these are like $2. I suggest avoiding these because they're not pleasant to use. Whereas this is, I think I paid $4 or $5 for this. All right, so stir it up. Yeah, people have been commenting a lot lately, a lot more dynamically. When the lockdown started, everybody was very nice and friendly and kumbaya. And since there's been a couple of scandals, like in the food world, food writing world, food television world, the hatchets are out again. So don't come after me, please. I'm not emotionally equipped to handle it. I'm still recovering from the market today. And I didn't get to go to Sri Lanka. And I've never been to Sri Lanka or India either. So, all right, I got a chilled glass. I'm gonna hold it up. It's a beautiful drink. That's why I love any drink that has red bitters in it, bitter aperitivo. As I mentioned, Campari is a red bitter aperitivo, and it's very red. You get a very red cocktail, which is some people like, and it's also very strong. It's high in alcohol. This is like 22%. I haven't memorized it. Oh, it's 16%, whereas Campari is like 30%, and I'm just guessing at that, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So this is the Lucian Gaudin cocktail, named after a French escrime, fencer. So when somebody said, oh, it's a Negroni, but with orange, I'm like, yes, it is. It's the same idea, it's the same ingredients, but it's different. It's that orange really brings out the sort of fruitiness of the bitters, the sort of botanical stuff going on in there. The gin is very peppy, that pink pepper gin. And Miko he responded to a few people who left comments. He goes, I know, we're gonna try to get it to the US soon. So I should probably just bring like a couple of cases next time I go back to the US and deliver it for him. I'm thinking this would be interesting with a touch of orange flower water in it. I'm not a huge fan of orange flower water, but a friend of mine gave me some, and I'm gonna open it because it's been sitting on my counter. My friend Miriam has a lovely bakery in the Marais called Maison Aleph, and she's part Syrian. I believe she's part French as well, but she was trained in French pastry school, French pastry making, and she makes these beautiful pastries that have sort of Middle Eastern ingredients, like that shredded dough that's actually extruded. People think it's phyllo dough. And I had the best za'atar panettone. It was one of the most wonderful things I ever ate in my life. So I'm gonna add a drop of this or two because I think it's really kind of. She told me this was very special orange flower water, and her place is called Maison Aleph. And she's actually in my book Drinking French because I included her spiced hot chocolate because it was so good. I went home and came up with my own version. I'm just gonna add a drop because too much orange flower water. She told me if you take a sip of this and some water before you go to bed, it'll help you sleep. She goes very well. So we all want to sleep well, so maybe this will help. Yes, that's wow. That's great. I gotta write another book. Okay. Wow, that's really good. It's just, it really brings out the other botanical flavors in the drink. I'm gonna add that to the blog. Okay, bye. No, I gotta change the blog post. No, it's a really interesting flavor, and I guess that's what bitters do. There was a bartender in Paris who was really, really, really talented. She was amazing, and she moved to Lyon, unfortunately, but she told me she didn't like using bitters because she felt they took over cocktails. And when I told a few other bartenders that, they're like, huh? Because they sort of act like seasoning. They're kind of like adding salt. You can eat food without salt, but adding a little bit of salt, even to like vanilla ice cream. I made ice cream today, milk chocolate ice cream. And just adding a little salt made it like tasty, and I hate to use that word drooling, but it makes you almost salivate thinking about salt. So I'm not gonna. I don't love that when people say I'm drooling, because I always think if you're drooling and you're an adult, you might want to see somebody about that, because it's not, for me, it's not a beautiful image, but that's okay. Drool away. But this is a great cocktail. All right. I can't finish the whole thing right now, but I will, I promise. When Romain gets home from work, I don't want to be blotto. But let me see if anybody had questions. Somebody asked if you can use Aperol instead of Campari. You know, Aperol is different. You could use it. You know, people always say, could I use this instead of this? I was like, yeah, try it. Aperol, to me, if you have it, try it. I wouldn't go out and buy it, but I like the bitterness of Campari or red bitter aperitivo. I think it's nice with the other ingredients. But if you don't like those kind of strong flavors in your drink, try it if you have a bottle of it. There's a great cocktail called the Naked and Famous, and it is made with chartreuse and Aperol. And if you have Aperol, Pat, I would recommend trying it because I love the name of it. Someone said resay the name of the bakery. It's Maison Aleph, and Maison, like house, and the second word is Aleph. You're welcome. Does orange water have alcohol? I do not believe so. What's a good substitute for Campari? Well, once again, there is this. If you're in Canada, I don't know, because there's all these strange laws. Fort Hoff Spirits, Red Bitter. You might be able to get Cappelletti there. Cappelletti is Italian, and it's actually a lot less than, it's not milder than Campari, it's more herbaceous. So you might want to look for that. It's called Cappelletti. Why is the revised obituary shaken? No fruit juice there. Certain cocktails are actually, you can shake them, like a martini. I shake martinis because I like them very cold. My good friend Stanley Tucci, he shakes his Negroni, and a lot of people were freaked out about it, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it was Jeffrey Morgenthaler talked about that once, who's the great bartender at Clyde Common, who was here a few weeks ago. He said something about, well, you know, shaken Negroni is good because it emulsifies the flavors and it really mixes them together. Not everybody agrees, but that's okay. I wish everybody agreed with me, but they don't. How about Chinar? Chinar is quite good. Brad Parsons, by the way, is here. Brad Parsons wrote a great book on bitters and another one on Amaro, and he's a good friend of mine. He's the godfather of drinking French, for better or worse. He's got the weight of the world on him. He actually, public service announcement. If you go to Punch Drink or Punch Drunk, I think it's Punch Drink, the website Punch. Brad Parsons wrote a great story about me and him talking about the difference between French drinking culture and Italian drinking culture, because he writes about Italian drinking culture a lot, and he's very funny, and he's a really good writer. He went to writing school. I was like, I want to go to writing school, but I don't have 4 years because I need to Punch Drink. Thank you. Sorry about that. Brad Parsons prefers consigliere. I'm not speaking Italian because I will get all the pronunciation wrong, like Fernet Branca or Fernet Branca. Chinar, the taste would be good. It would be, the color might not be so attractive, and it's quite, it would be a different color drink, so you could try it. I like these questions that. Okay, this is very funny. The problem with reusable ice rocks versus real ice, people don't think, when I was telling people like I like shaken martinis, some people are like, that dilutes them. I'm like, that's the whole idea of shaking or mixing a drink. You're diluting it with a little bit of ice, because drinks that are, too solid, pure alcohol, strong. When I had Robert Simonson here the other evening, or the other day, or depending on where you are, he wrote a great book called The Martini Cocktail, and he said there's a bar in London that doesn't dilute their martinis, and they found a way to make them really cold, and he said he had one and he was so drunk, or he was, on his way to being there. So I don't really understand those rocks because I actually like the little dilution in things. That's why you should put ice in them. Like, I don't like soda. If I have a Coke, I have to have ice in it. It's too strong for me. So I'm not a big fan. Oh, Robert Simons said Duke's Bar. I hope I didn't reveal anything too much, Robert. And by the way, I did episodes with Robert. I did an episode with Robert about a week ago, and you can watch it in my Instagram stories. And I did one with Brad Parsons, but it was before before I could save it. Somebody wants to see the orange flower water again. Yes, Cappelletti will work in this cocktail. Okay, this is a very good question from Joan Cynthia Lab. Now, how did you come up with that name? Because are you Cynthia? Are you Cynthia Jones? It's very hard to. I have a friend who, and I never followed her on Instagram, and she got mad. She's like, "Why'd you follow me?" I was like, "I don't see you on Instagram." And she had like some name that she had, like a pseudonym, and I said, "I didn't know it was you. Use your name." So sorry, Cynthia or Jones, I didn't mean to pick on you. The difference between Dolin Dry and Dolin Blanc, a lot of people don't realize is dry vermouth, and Robert actually talked about this the other night, last week too. I just let Robert step in here and answer all the questions. But French dry vermouth was usually amber. Noilly Prat is the original French dry vermouth, and it's a little oxidized. They keep it in barrels. They barrel age it for about a year. So it's not white vermouth, it's actually dry vermouth. And they did come out with a white vermouth. And same with Dolin. Dolin, they filter their vermouth even better, even more for, that's why it's good in martinis, but they get the color out of it. But Blanc vermouth is sweet. And there's a drink called the El Presidente it works very well in. So if you tune in on Tuesday, I'm gonna have Pierre Olivier from Dolin, one of the owners of the company. It's a family-owned company. It's been family-owned for about 130 years. And when I met with him, I wrote to him and I said, I need to come visit you when I was researching My Paris Kitchen. He looked at me, he was telling me the history of the company. Really nice guy. I was just like, I would break up with Miko for, no, Romain, no. Okay, whoa, I'm digging a hole here. He said, come to think of it, for most of the time, this company's been women or owned by women, because his wife is actually in the family, the Daulin family, but he's working in the place and so forth. So he'll be here on Tuesday, and we can talk more about Daulin Vermouth. I actually don't know. I have never heard about adding salt to cocktails. I'm open to trying it. I don't have a problem with it. I just have never really heard of it. So, files are starting breaking with Nico. Sorry, Miko. I haven't tried salt in cocktails, so someday I will. But I haven't really heard of putting salt in cocktails, except in a margarita. So I see that somebody's asking about bitters in the comments. It's hard to talk about. It's a very, very broad subject, and I don't mean to sell somebody's book, but Brad Parsons' book on bitters is really one of the few cocktail books everybody should own who's interested in cocktails, because he talks about what bitters are. They're basically botanicals marinated in spirits, which draws out their flavors, and you add them by the dash to cocktails. In some instances, there's a few cocktails where you add like substantially more, like a quarter ounce or something, but generally they're sort of added to highlight the other flavors. Like you could add some orange bitters to this to bring up the orange flavor, or you could add cardamom bitters to this cocktail, and that would give it sort of a little bit of spicy notes, and spicy, a little spice, cardamom with orange would take very interesting. So they're kind of seasoning in cocktails. And just getting back to the salt comment, Workhorse Rye. Sorry if I'm screwing it up if you guys are watching, but they make wonderful bitters. They have a salted cacao, which is a chocolate bitters with some salt in it, and I use that in cocktails. So I guess I should go back and I guess I need to start this whole thing over again, because I have had salt in cocktails. But I've used that in cocktails, and it's quite good. It's not salty, but they use salt in it. And their bitters are excellent, so I like them. It's called Workhorse Rye. And if you want to try making bitters, I have a recipe on my blog for orange bitters. That's sort of the easiest one to make. It's very straightforward. And I hate it when I was drinking French, I didn't want to use all these elusive bitters, because, everyone's like, peacock bitter, two dashes, peacock bitters, something strange. And I just thought, people are going to want to buy 2 or 3 bottles, like orange and aromatic, like Angostura to start out with, and then you can expand your bitters library. And bitters last forever. And actually you can buy them in the supermarket, because even though they're alcoholic, I guess that somehow the FDA has decided that nobody would drink them, because it's impossible to drink them. So there you have it. All right, there's more questions, but I guess I should do a question and answer tomorrow. What's the name of the book on bitters? It's called Bitters, and the author is Brad Thomas Parsons, and he has won the coveted James Beard Award for that book, and he has a medal to prove it. And he carries it in his pocket and takes it out all the time to torture me, because I've never won a James Beard Award. I'm just kidding. I am not bitter about that. Martinis are shaken. They have no fruit juice. Is that wrong? No, nothing's wrong. Shake martinis. They're good. Where does Pierre live? Pierre lives in Chambéry. Chambéry is in the French Alps. It's not that far from Chartreuse, and it's beautiful. And it used to be part of the dukedom of Italy, so that's why vermouth started being made there. It was called Vermouth de Chambéry, and at one time there was a special designation, AOC. If people that know, it's a designation, and Vermouth de Chambéry, you had to be there to call it Vermouth de Chambéry. And over the years, the companies either closed or moved out. So Daulin is one of the last vermouths made in Chambéry. and I think it's the only one that's allowed to be called Vermouth de Chambéry. Not allowed, but I'm not quite sure. So, but he is in Chambéry in the Alps, and he took me out to lunch when I went there, and we had this huge Alpine meal, and he had just gone skiing. I was like, there's a lot of cheese. Okay, how do I, the last one, garnishes that top drinks. It depends. You know, I love olives, and I used to always want olives in my martinis because I would just eat them. And then I realized I don't really like them in the drink. I was like, just bring me a side of olives and let me eat those, and let me have like a lemon zest in my drink. Oh. I need to keep writing books. Who's gonna mix all these drinks? Okay. So you know, a lot of garnishes aren't really meant to be eaten, but I usually do eat like the orange wedge because it seems like it's sort of part of the whole, you know, it's there, may as well eat it. So other stuff I wouldn't eat, like a mint leaf or something. All right. Well, I should probably let you guys have your day. Do I give French food and drinks tours? I used to. For many years, I gave tours. I started off doing day tours, and then I realized that wasn't fulfilling enough because I was taking people around and it was exhausting. And I thought it's much better to do a week because then we could go into the workshop, because you can't go into workshops where people are working because they don't want you coming in every day. But if I came in like twice a year or 3 times a year, it was okay because they were friends of mine and they're like, sure, come in. But if I said, you know, one of them said, you're always full and you have a lot of people and everyone's really nice, you should do more tours. And I said, well, could we come every week? He goes, no. I said, okay, thank you very much. So we can't do them every week. So I stopped. I did my last tour last year because every year I'm slowing down a bit. I'm trying to do less, or not do less, but, well, do less. So there you go. And that was part of Sri Lanka, was to do less and to find a good place when it's all over. Okay, so tomorrow I will be back. Please leave comments and let me know what I should do tomorrow because I don't have a plan yet. So maybe I could get Miriam from Maison Aleph to come and talk about making hot chocolate or whatever. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.